Flights delayed across the U.S. after FAA system outage. So why don't they say until all the way toward the end of the article what's actually out? Just a bunch of updates and things like that. You know, this is the problem when you have a broken money and all leads road to Bitcoin, as they say in the crypto, well, Bitcoin space, I guess, and many in the crypto land are going to understand that very soon, and many in the fiat land are going to understand that. When you have a fiat broken legacy monetary system, this is what happens. And what I mean by that is when you have a few at the top who have broken the currency, meaning they've decoupled it from reality, they've decoupled money, they made it a currency. There's no longer money. Money must be a store of value. That's why gold and silver were money for thousands of years, and now why Bitcoin is going to take over that moniker. And the reason I know that is because it's a zero-sum game. There can only be one money at the end of the day, and it takes some time for that to happen. It doesn't just happen overnight. And when you have the properties of money and people realize, oh, this is the only thing that's actually valuable and doesn't have this utility that I can use in something else, and it's the medium with which I can transact with it, and I can store it, and it goes up in value over time instead of losing value over time, which is what we've been sold, this bill of goods for the last 100 years. We need inflation or debasement, which lowers our wealth, steals our time and energy, because as we've talked about a million times, your wealth is stored in your money, which is a container for your time and energy. That's all it is. The value you provide is your wealth, your time and your energy. It's what you trade every day at work. You want to go to work and just trade it for no reason. You want a sound trade. You want to trade for something of actual value. You want an equally finite asset for your finite time. Well, the only one we have that's equally finite is Bitcoin. There are only going to be 2.1 quadrillion Satoshis or 21 million Bitcoin. That's it. You can divide it up as many ways as you want in that same pie, but each slice of the pie will get more and more valuable over time as more economic value is put into that pie. Meaning, think of it this way, the hungrier you get, if it really is a pie, the hungrier people get, the more valuable those pieces of pie would become, correct? The more people are willing to do for that value, meaning the Bitcoin you hold, as more and more premium is put into that, more and more value is put into that system, that network, that Bitcoin, that slice of Bitcoin, that slice of the 2.1 quadrillion will buy you more and more things. It'll trade you for more and more goods and services. And that's the problem here. When you have these systems that are, again, completely outdated, this goes along with the video we did about a month ago with the grid attacks and how fragile the grid is. And there's attacks all over the place that are little ones that they don't even get reported on. I was stunned at how many outages there were. And here we go with the FAA. And this is such an important industry at the end of the day. However, when you're bailing people out like we were a couple years ago with Boeing and these different companies, if you can't afford to have a few months or a year of savings, that's on you. You should go under. That's just called poor risk management. That's called poor management of your company. That's just being a bad company. That your job is to stay in business and be able to weather rainy days and not just shoot it all out there and not be able to service your debt or your debt at all. Why are we in a debt-based system, right? So again, the problems here lie in the fact that we have the notice to air missions system. And again, they don't say here, but this used to be called, I believe, the notice, and someone can correct me if I'm wrong, but the notice to airman. And we can see how that might be of an issue with people. Notice to airman system, and now we have something that doesn't even make sense. Notice to air missions, that doesn't even make sense. However, when you dive into some of the documents, which I read earlier today, and you're seeing what they're prioritizing, and this is not just the FAA, this is the government in general, many of the companies we have, because they're now in bed with the government, public-private partnerships, the stakeholder capitalism we've seen flouted down by Klaus Schwab. The problem is when you have this thing that they did in the 30s in Germany, for crying out loud. Let's be totally honest and open here. Let's talk about this adult to adult. This is the same process that played out there, where the government said, you know what, we're just going to get in bed with these companies. They're going to do our dirty work for us in many ways. And that's not us doing it, guys. That's private companies doing it. It wasn't the government doing it. However, what very few people understand is that they're in bed with the government. And they are making deals. They're getting bailed out by the government, whether it's GM or Boeing or all these companies, the cruise lines or whatever it is. So they're all out there and they're at the behest of the government now. Now they're on the dole. So now they have to flout the line of the government, whatever the government tells them to do. And that's the problem with the IMF doing this, bailing out countries. This is why El Salvador said, we're done. We're going on a Bitcoin standard. The people's money, we're not dealing with this government corrupt fiat currency issue anymore. This is just garbage. So when you have prioritization off, when you're prioritizing inclusivity and equitable fairness and all this jargon and these changing definitions and changing of systems, and that's your focus. Not to say it's right or wrong. It is what it is. Now, I would prioritize efficiency and actual value given in the product and the service. That's what I would actually value, because believe it or not, most human beings, no matter what race, creed, gender, identity, whatever you are, you actually value that more than everything else. You actually value your standard of living, and what this system is called usually isn't of consequence to literally 99.99999999999% of people. So now you've affected tens of thousands of people because you've chosen to prioritize things that, again, in the business world, in the real world, really don't matter at the end of the day. And it's ironic, because if you just follow the 10 Commandments, we wouldn't have any of these problems. If you just follow those, there's an old saying of the woman who used to go and she used to visit prisons, and she used to go help prisoners and talk to them, and just provide empathy for them and just hear them, listen to them. And one day she went in there, and one of the men in there said, "You know what, sister? There's just so many rules. Did you know how many rules there are that put me in this prison?" And while I empathize with that, because we're all breaking some rule, every one of us on any given day, she looked back to him and she said, "Yeah, but did you know that there's 10 that'll keep you out?" And it really is, it kind of speaks to our society in that we just have such a lack of prioritization of the things that matter in life. If you just followed the 10 Commandments, if you followed 10 rules, you wouldn't even have any of these issues, right? We wouldn't have any of this. We wouldn't be worrying. We'd be treating our neighbor like we want to be treated. So you wouldn't have to go in and be changing system names and focusing and prioritizing, spending money, time, effort, instead of restructuring. And here we are, the secretary, which we're not going to mention his name. The name doesn't even matter, because they're all the same at the end of the day. And he's right there, unfortunately, which I didn't know he was going to be right there. But the secretary is out here saying, well, it is time. This is a good time to review our systems. Well, you think? Maybe that would have been a good time a year ago when you guys were worried about, all different types of inclusion and things like that, and not working on your service, not working on your technology. Because at the end of the day, we all want the true value, our wealth, and it's all measured through goods and services, right? That's what it's all measured through. So the big thing with all this, the kind of the elephant in the room, is really the Klaus Schwab, the World Economic Forum, the alphabet soup of agencies who have been warning us. There's going to be a big cyber attack. There's going to be a big cyber attack. That's going to be one of the next pandemics. That and the climate lockdowns. Well, here we are. We've had grid outages. We've had potentially an attack on the FAA. We don't know, but the point being is that they've telegraphed these things. The Great Reset. He's written books. Klaus has written books. The Great Narrative. The people, humans love telegraphing what they're going to do. Criminals love talking about their bag, love talking about what they got, what they're doing, what they got away with. That's kind of like one of those characteristics of a criminal, and it's all out there in the open if people want to do this. And at the end of the day, great crisis leads to great opportunity. This is the thing that's so sad about all this. Like, I don't want to sit here and complain, because that's not the point of any of this. The point of all this, and what my channel is and what our community is we're building, is there is the ability to grow and learn from this and get ahead big time, whether it's through Bitcoin fixing the money, fixing the world, separation of money and state. And then this kind of problems don't happen, because Bitcoin aligns incentives and it brings people together, and it reins in the purse and puts the issuance of money back in the hands of the people, so that government can't be taking the currency, stealing it through inflation by printing currency, stealing your time and energy, which is what inflation is, and then raining that paper back down on their pet projects, on inclusivity training and all kinds of different things. And if you want to have inclusivity training, in a Bitcoin world where people have equity and actual capital, actual capitalism, then okay, great. The problem is, in a world like that, if you aren't doing what you're supposed to be doing and you're providing a terrible service and value, you're going to go out of business. And that's the beauty of a true merit-based world, is if you aren't providing actual value and service, a good one, unlike the 20% of S&P 500 companies that are zombie companies that can't afford the interest on their debt, well, you're going to have issues. You're going to have problems. And that's the world we have to get back to, because in a merit-based world, everyone cleans up their act. Things like this don't matter. Because in a fiat world, nothing matters. So people can just do whatever they want. They can do however they feel. They can take, 37 pills each day. We can have opioid crises. We can have mental health crises. And we'll just throw more money at it. We'll print more currency, redistribute, steal from this class of people, redistribute it back to this class of people, give them more pills, and we'll just pretend like there's no problem. That is only in a fiat legacy monetary system. That will not happen in a Bitcoin standard. It can't. It mathematically can't happen. So that's the choice we have. We have a choice to either be a part of this old world that's literally crumbling and slipping beneath the waves, like we said a million times, that Titanic slipping beneath the waves, and most people still are denying it's happening. And then we have the people in the life raft, the Bitcoin life raft. They're building, because again, Bitcoin is not about money go up. It's not about number go up technology. It's not about some, we're going to the moon boys. That's literally, hopefully if you've been here for any time, you've noticed that is not what Bitcoin's about at all. It's about building a new system. It's about banking the unbanked. It's about taking the power back from the unproductive class and putting it back in the hands of you and your children and your grandchildren. That is what Bitcoin is about. That's what the ethos is. That's what the social layer is. That's what the discovery is made for. That's what Satoshi wrote about. This is the culture we are bringing back. The people. It's the peaceful revolution. It's the new 1776, and we're doing it peacefully this time, saying, we're voting with our money, voting with our feet. This stuff doesn't have to happen anymore. So we pray and hope that all of the stranded passengers are okay, and that they get where they need to be, and that government can get their head out of their you-know-what, and people can start holding government officials accountable, and we can return the money back to the people so the government works for us instead of us working for the government. Please like and subscribe to the channel if you like it. Please let me know what you got out of this, and if you don't like it, please, again, let me share why, and we can battle it out in the comments. And again, I appreciate your time. It's the most important asset we have. It's the only finite asset we have besides Bitcoin. So Bitcoin is time, and time is Bitcoin. And again, this is not financial advice at all with Bitcoin. It's freedom advice. I'll see you on the next one.